Sorry, that tastes so good, I just can't leave it alone. Okay, so World War II ends, and 1 million Jews are displaced. That bottom picture, even though it's not clear, that's the Germanic area, but we're talking about Hungary and other places like that, where the Jews are living as refugees. 1 million of them. They don't want to. Some of their villages, towns, whatever, were decimated. There's nothing there, and they don't want to go back to rebuild. Understandable. Well, America has an immigration policy of only taking in 5% of people per year, 5% of immigrants. And England has the same thing. Britain says 5%. So they've got to come up with a solution. So 100,000 of them try to go to Jerusalem. Try to go to Jerusalem, claiming that they're moving back in. They weren't, but anyway, we've already talked a little bit about that. They try to go back to Jerusalem, and they get turned away, and they're taken off to Crete, I believe it is, or yeah. Anyway, they don't get to stay there. 100,000 of them moved out on a ship, and so Harry Truman says to England, "Look, you control that territory. Give them land." Right? And so a part of what they do is they come up with, and I apologize for the redundancy of going back over this, but it's very important. I want to settle for you how they got to Jerusalem, that they weren't connected genealogically, number one, but how they ended up there in Jerusalem anyway. So they go in, the land's going to be parsed off. That's what that top picture is next to me. Land's going to be parsed off. There's going to be a partition where the Palestinians have an area they can live in and Jews have an area they can live in. The issue, though, is that in order to pull that off, 700,000 Palestinians had to be displaced. I've got pictures of them walking along the road with nowhere to go in mass numbers. There's some other stories around it. I hope that you when you're watching this on YouTube, that you'll pause it, right? Get the name of that article that I had up there, and that you'll read that article. Don't just, read it. So you can hear the full story and follow exactly what happened, so that you don't continue to think in your mind that the Jews just came home and this is where they've always been or whatever it is. But to understand that until 1948, when they became a nation, until 1948, they were living in Europe, in the Germanic area, up in Russia. That's where they were living. But they weren't returning home. They were never in the family. They were never connected to Shem or Ham. Those two mixed because they stayed in the area. But they weren't connected. And you have to settle that in your mind and understand. Trying to find a nice way of saying this. Because of the color of their skin, because they were lighter, it fit the narrative of making Jesus white. And because it fit that narrative, they were perfect to go in there and claim, we went through the Exodus and, escaped from Egypt and wandered in the wilderness for 40 years and all. They could not have. They were not there. They were not there. When scripture mentions where they were, it's the same as what I showed you on the map. They were not there. So here's the image.